What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Story Time with Uncle Joel on Into My GT Entertainment. How are y'all doing today? I just wanted to get back with y'all and tell y'all a little story about Wasp and why Wasp even became a thing, why we bought her, you know, the whole kit and caboodle, because it was kind of a thing just to do at the time. But I'll get into that a little more. So I am going to roll the beautiful beam footage. Of course, it hasn't been touched. It's the same old, same old. So whoever keeps commenting, I like the intro. I will get there, I promise. So we will get there shortly. I'm going to hit it. See you in a few. So the introduction to my 2024 Mustang GT, now known as Wasp, was never supposed to be yellow. Yeah, so I wanted to do Atlas Blue to match the Explorer Nightwing that I have, and then trailer that down as a family, so that way I can have the Atlas Blue ST and the Atlas Blue GT and they would match. But once I saw, I guess it was after the fact, let me not get ahead of the story. Pam and Brandon didn't want the Atlas Blue. So in the pictures it looked pretty good, but actually in person I'm glad we went the way we went. But with that being said, out of the color swatches that were there, yellow kind of stuck out. Obviously, you know, Brandon likes yellow because he's Minion. And Pam wanted a yellow car back in the 90s. So, you know, me being me, I gave in and, hey, we got a yellow car, right? The thing about it was, in the pictures and stuff like that, you know, everything looks good, but this one was a different yellow than Brandon's car. Brandon's is a triple yellow and this was yellow splash. What made the difference is the shade, and it had flake in it, where Brandon's was just a triple yellow color, no flake in it at all. So I didn't know what we were going to get when we got it. So we went ahead and pre-ordered the car out in March. I think it's when the pre-orders came in of 2023. And we went ahead and, you know, saved up a little money along the way, and, you know, for the little things that we're going to do, and then, you know, insurance was going to go up and, you know, stuff like that, right? So property tax here in Virginia, you get creamed every which way you go. So we went ahead and did that, and then we went to Mustang Week. We didn't have the car till October, so that did not go down that first year to Mustang Week. So we took Electra down and we took the ST down. Pam drove Electra down and then I drove the ST down. So that was that year. So when we came back, let's say about a month and a week later, we were out and about around the dealership that we bought it from, and we noticed there was a trailer with a yellow Mustang on the back of it. And we saw it going down the road, and we're like, curious, right? So we kind of followed it, you know, we were being those people, right? And lo and behold, it stopped at our dealership, and that was our car. We were the only one that ordered the yellow GT, and, you know, so it was kind of a nice surprise. So it looked pretty good. It still had to go through the whole cleaning and PDF, and it was on the back of a trailer, so we never really got to see it till the next day, or might have been 2 days later. So, you know, we went ahead and picked it up, and that was that. So with that being said, after seeing the car itself, I had a couple license plates in mind, and it wasn't Wasp. Wasp was never in the running for that at the moment. And if you wonder why I name my cars the way they do, I picked like Marvel or DC Comics, or you know, something that kind of fits in my mind. Electra should have been red, not blue, but you know, that came from Daredevil. You got Nightwing from the Batman's DC series, and then you have Wasp that eventually came from Ant-Man and Wasp from Marvel. So, you know, I kind of keep that little trend going on. So anyway, with that being said, we saw the car, and it was a different shade of yellow than Brandon's. Brandon's is more of a, I would say, a brighter yellow, where my yellow was an orangey yellow. And it had the flake, so it kind of reflected a little different. So we went ahead and brought that home, and I sat there and looked at license plates for a little minute and whatever, and there was something that I had chosen, and it wasn't taken at the time. And it goes to show you, if you wait too long on something, that you might regret it, right? So I was debating the license plates with Pam and Brandon and God knows who else for a minute. And I wasn't gonna go with a Marvel theme this time. I was just gonna go kind of chill. I don't know if y'all see Margaritaville down in Myrtle Beach, and you know what that comes from. Well, we have license plates here now that are parrot head license plate, and the color scheme matches the car. And I wanted to name the car Sunset because the color of the car reminds me of sunset over the ocean. That's where I was kind of going. So I kind of finagled that for a little while, and then, you know, I told Pam, like, all right, this is what I'm getting. And I went to go get it, and it was taken. So I got kind of shot in the foot right there. So that brought me over to where I am now with Wasp, calling her Wasp because, you know, it kind of fit the scheme of other things that were going on. So yeah, so like I said, sometimes if you wait a little too long, things are gonna kind of swing by you. So, and when you decide you want to do something, you better do it then. That's all I'm saying. So back to the story of Wasp. Hold tight for a second. Okay, so the story of Wasp, the reason why we purchased Wasp wasn't to be doing what we did, or what happened down the road with her. The whole intention was for me to have another Mustang that was not molested in any way, you know, do my little tweaks to it, but have it more so as a daily. Like I said, I like the manual, so we stuck with the manual, and you know, I was going to keep Electra and have that as my go fun half car, and then when we wanted to take trips or go do whatever, you know, we'd take the other Mustang and it'll be a lot easier, right? So that was the plan. Pam still has her Mustang, she has her Jeep, she has a truck, she had, you know, we're set on vehicles, so it wasn't something that we needed to do, but it's just something that we wanted to do. And again, I don't know if I mentioned it, that the only car payment that we have, that we actually, me and Pam in our little realm, is the truck. And that came because when her parents passed away, we needed to unload stuff, and doing it with the Jeep or my SUV, it just took too long, so she went ahead and decided that she wanted a truck. Once we got the truck, I always call it my truck, but it is her truck. She does pay for it, but I put my little twist on it, you know, the wheels, the bed liner, the seats, and whatever, air intake, I believe, too, you know, exhaust, little step thingy on the side. So, you know, made it, it's our thing, but, you know, I kind of made it look a little bit. The headlights, too, yeah, don't forget those, because that was one of the major things. So, with that even being said, you know, that was what Wasp was going to be. You know, it was just going to be a nice daily, you know, kick around car, you know, when we don't want to take the Mustangs or whatever, but we want to take a Mustang, but something that wasn't so rowdy, you know, that's what we would do. Well, life happened, right? So in the midst of all this going on, I lost my job of 23 years, and it kind of altered some things around a little bit. Not at first, but everything has a domino effect, right? So at the time, everything was cool, everything was good. Still had Electra, whatever, life was going on, right? I had a little bit of severance and had time to goof around and do whatever, right? So we did that. Time came around, was getting close, so I got a job. I did like the job. It was a consultant, being a auto consultant firm for IT for a company, and that was a pretty good gig. It was at home and Monday through Friday, and you know, no problems there. I got paid pretty good, and life was good at that time, you know. So 7 months rolled by, lost job again. I was like, man, I couldn't catch a break. So in that span of that's when I started thinking about selling Electra. Not that I needed to, because again, it was paid off. Nothing but property tax and insurance, you know, for that car. And that wasn't even that much because it was 10 years old, right? So we went ahead and, you know, kept it for a little while. And then I started thinking, you know, maybe I can get some good money for this car and, you know, maybe start doing stuff with Wasp and then paying off some bills and yada, yada, yada. So, of course, the devil in disguise, which is known as Derek, me and him were talking, and Tyler was looking for an S197. Kind of convenient, huh? Stand by 1 second. Well, to fix the time frame a little bit, I was thinking about selling Electra while I still had this job. So you know, I was kicking around the idea. You know, I was working and making good money, and you know, Electra wasn't being driven. I bought the tool shed to throw Electra in, and that's where she kind of sat. I drove Wasp, or I drove Nightwing, and that was just kind of how things were working out, right? So me and Tyler were talking, and you know, I gave him a figure, and he thought about it and whatever, and then hit me up and said, yeah, we'll do it. So that whole process happened, and he purchased Electra. So Electra is now his, and I just got paid for Wasp to get new everything, right? You know, so the very first thing I did was buy a Whipple for her. Got it painted yellow, you know, the works, the stage 2 kit, open air boxes, whatever, right? Good thing is Brandon works for American Muscle, and he had some connections with Whipple and little things here and there, and things kind of worked out. So I got the Whipple at a good price, and like I said, I had to wait for that, right? So as I was waiting for that, I was preparing Wasp for the transformation. I already had wheels at this point. I had suspension done, so I already had the Magnarod springs. I had the camber plates that were put on wrong that we had to fix, the stop the hop kit, and then I had the jacking rails, and then I went ahead and purchased the one-piece drive shaft with the loop on it, the K-member brace, and a couple other little things along the way, right? So we went ahead and, you know, we're preparing this car for everything. And the thing is that, hold on, that thought. Sorry about that. Brandon came down and started making noise in the fridge. Go figure that, right? So yeah, and I got the oil pump gears and you know, all the little things that needed to be done for that. Oil pump gears, to me, in a manual, I could see the reasoning behind those. In an auto, maybe not so much, but you know, it is that added security for that. Things do happen, so you know, again, I've known people that have ran, and I did it for quite a while without oil pump gears and had no issues. And then you have people that ran their first pull and blew up their freaking car. So you know, it is, I guess, kind of a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday thing, you know, when your car was built and what parts are in there at that time, right? But anyway, so all the stuff started coming in. Like I said, all that started happening, and then, you know, of course, lose my job again, right? So that was kind of a surprise. So, you know, it's just kind of whatever. You know, it was cool. No biggie. I'll just apply. And they gave me a little bit of severance too. So I had a little bit of extra time there. Not much as I did with the first one, but you know, whatever. So I did get another job. Started there in April-ish. April 14th, I believe. I had some health stuff I needed to take care of prior to, but that was kind of when I dropped in there. And did that for about a month, literally a month. And it wasn't a good fit for me. The people were okay and the money was good, and it is, but it was sales, and I'm not a salesperson, you know. It's just not in my genes for that. So, you know, I talked to Pam, and you know, it was kind of a heartfelt, you know, emotional type thing for me, and I just said I'm not going back to it. And she agreed, but you know, I should have probably had something in the works prior to, and I was looking while I was there, but you know, nothing was manifesting. I just couldn't do that job anymore. So the good thing is, when that happened, I had 2 interviews posted. So, you know, I did that whole thing, and I felt really good about the one. I think I left on a Wednesday and I had it on a Friday. So, you know, I felt pretty good. And then the guy went on vacation for a week and whatever. And then, you know, it didn't happen. So as of right now, as I'm making this video, I'm still unemployed. And things are getting a little tight. So, like I said, trying to find something, and that's kind of why I'm trying to make more videos, maybe try to get some compensation out of this a little bit. Every little bit helps, right? Even if it's $100, you know, it's $100, right? So, you know, I try to do what I can for what I can, at least to make things meet at the time. But anyway, getting off subject, let's talk about Wasp some more. Okay, so sold Electra, got parts for Wasp. Things were happening, right? So, like I said, it went from one stage to another. Wasp was never supposed to take over Electra's spot, but it's kind of, sometimes it happens that way, right? And I still love that car. I still think that is the best body style, the look, you know, the way the front end is. I still think that is still one of the best models to have. Like I said, I wanted something new. I'm getting a little older, want some creature comforts, and you know, and again, as you saw with this car, just a little things go a long way. And I think that's what this car needed to begin with, because with it being NA, you know, I had the long tubes, I had the intake, and you know, it made what, 417. They advertised it at Crank for 468, and it felt like 417. Maybe that I was kind of biased because I came from Electra, which was 750 horsepower, 715, whatever it was, right? Whenever, depending when you decide to take it and how the weather was and whatever, right? So this was slow to me, you know, and I was just, it was driving me up the wall because the car has a lot of potential, but it was untapped and you couldn't do nothing. You still can't tune these cars. I think even by tuning them will make a difference in the performance of this car, because there's so much left on the table with this thing. So, you know, the Whipple finally came in and went ahead and did the install. Saw those a couple videos back, and install went pretty good. You know, I took my time, kind of meticulously went through the things to make sure I didn't have any big issues when I had it going on. We did forget one thing, but we did fix it. But then I took it to the dyno after getting it back together. So just by adding the supercharger, it literally doubled the horsepower of this car to 815. So it went from 415 to 815. I put another Mustang into that Mustang just by adding the Whipple. Now granted, the Whipple costs a little bit of money, right? But you do get the performance out of that. Now, it made me buy some other things. So like I said, I bought a new set of tires for the rear. I haven't put them on yet. These are still the Fax ones. These are the G2s. And look at those rims. I do everything a little expensive sometimes, so I didn't have to go the route I did. But coming in here, I got the new meats, which is the double R's, the R2, excuse me. But look, they're on the same type of rim. That way I could just swap in and swap out and not have to change the front tires that have that mismatched look, because I don't like the mismatched look. I don't like running a different set of rears and a different set of fronts. Same thing with tires. These are matched to that set. So the triple G2s and the R2s have the same tread pattern on it. Now this again is a softer compound, and this will wear a lot quicker. The tread wear on these is 100, where it's 320 on the other. So if that tells you anything, and you know tires, that these are going to wear sufficiently quicker, especially if you're being spirited and doing burnouts and doing whatever with them. You're going to smoke them pretty quick. And these are $400 a tire, and the rims are pretty much like, you know, $600. So, you know, each set, each wheel is $1,000 pretty much. So it's not a cheap thing to do, you know. So like I said, that kind of hurt a little bit, and it is what it is, right? You know, if you want to play, you got to pay. So it's a lot of stuff. And I am not sponsored. I try to find people to help me out on these situations, because I do stuff. And if people will back me, then I'll do more. But if I have to fork out every penny and everything, and not, you know, oh yeah, I got these on my car. Oh shit, the car broke. Well, guess what? I got to fix it, and they're out. They don't care either way, because they got 40 other people doing it, you know. And then not to say anything about my subs, but I have, you know, right at 5,500, you know. They look for people for 100,000, a million people that, you know, put their stuff out there a little bit. But to me, the littler channels are more effective than the bigger channels, because the bigger channels become incorporated. You know, they become so out of touch with what they originally went there to do. I do this for fun. I do this to entertain. It's in the name, right? Into my GT Entertainment. I do this to entertain, to do stuff that maybe somebody can't do at the moment, or is having ideas of doing, and then giving them a path that I took. That's kind of the way I think that some of these companies should look at it, because you are the people that are going to buy stuff. And I think being more down to earth and people in the same frame that you are doing the same stuff will be more appealing. But you know, they always look for the bigger people, and you know, it's kind of sad, and it puts out a lot of people for that. But I do rep the people that, you know, I do get stuff from. So Whipple again did help me. Steeda, when Chris worked there, he helped me out a lot. Corsa, I have always ran Corsa. Into my GT, that's who funds everything. So, you know, that is just kind of the way it is. But this car has become a monster, and it's become a surprise, and not intentionally what it was made for, but it is the new hotness for me. I got Nightwing for my daily, which is 510 horsepower. This is my half fun car, which is 815 on the bigger pulley. It's on the smaller pulley now, so it could be closer to 850-ish on a 6.2. I don't know. We may travel down to a 3.5 at some point. So, you know, I don't know. But like I said, that is the story of Wasp. It's getting kind of straight away, then came back in the straight away, and then come back. But that's kind of how things work with me sometimes. Hold tight. All right, everybody. So that is going to probably conclude this video because I could talk for hours and I don't think y'all want to hear me just talk to talk. If y'all do like videos of me just having discussions about certain things, life in general or whatever, let me know. I'm always in the mood to talk to myself for whatever reason. Best friend's right here staring at me. So, you know, it kind of works out better that way. So if y'all give me a path, I will try to go down it. Like I said, financially, there's not much more that I can do for Wasp. Right now, she sits pretty good. She runs fast. I'm gonna do some probably pulls with her and stuff like that. But until I do that, you know, I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do. And, you know, I gotta be safe about it too. I'm 52 years old. My reaction time is nothing like it was. And like I said, I like to drive spirited, but sometimes it takes me longer. So I got to make sure I'm safe with everything, right? So other people, you know, want to always go and go and go. And I can't do that stuff like I used to, unfortunately. So welcome to old man TV. Sorry. But anyway, Wasp is, like I said, is pretty good thing going on right now. She looks good. She runs great. Surprisingly, did the install, no issues. Like I said, we did some of the cosmetics with the RTR front end. We did the Diodynamics fog lights, side markers. Over here we got the rear side markers, and then the rear little markers in the back over the light, the exhaust. And earlier I was talking about the license plate. That is the license plate that I have. You can see it's a parrot head. It's a Margarita, I can't even talk right now. Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett stuff. And they're called parrot heads. And not that I'm all into that, but the color scheme would have went good with sunset, I thought. But again, that goes back to what I was talking about before. If there's something you want to do and get at it, get at it. Because sometimes if you wait just a little bit too long, things will get taken away. And not by you, by somebody else, or just fate has ways of changing things around, right? So, hey, this is that video. I talked a lot. I hope you listened. I hope y'all stayed to it. I hope the video does pretty good. And like I said, if y'all want to have more discussion videos, I can kind of piece apart certain things, and then we can talk about that and make videos on those particular spots or things that y'all want to talk about. I know there's people that talk about, you know, this is my problem, I forget things, right? Talk about, you know, let's say wheels and tire fitment, or tires they should use, or Whipple versus Paxton versus, you know, the Edelbrock that used to be, or the older cars, or now the Roush blower. You know, we could talk. I could do some research, and then we could have conversations on it. Like I said, I've always been fond of Whipple. Whipple's been part of my car stuff for quite a while. I used to have a power dyne on my 93 GT back in the day. I've been doing this for a minute. But like I said, I'm getting older. Things are a little slower for me, and you know, I'm still trying to hang in there with the young ones, and I don't have the funds, and I have a family I gotta kind of take care of. But now they're starting to take care of me because of my unemployment issues and stuff like that. So the wife is taking care of me, the kids are helping out a little bit, so at least I got that playing in my role. But no sad hearts here, no handouts. We're gonna keep grinding, doing what we need to do, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next video. And again, if this is something that appeals to y'all, let me know. If this is long-winded and not your thing, let me know, because I want to build this community. I don't want to exile this community. So we'll catch you on the next video.